This is a recording of a workshop that was a part of the annual Senko conference on the 17th of March. It includes an introduction to technology to help dyslexics and shows technology to help students read to learn and to produce written work. It also advises attendees where they can find out more information about the many solutions that could not be included. It has been edited to exclude the faces and the voices of the participants. I've got a big confession to make. Before I start prepping, I always go back to when I told the organisers all that time back what I was going to cover, and I saw an error. How I thought in just 1 hour you could learn about the vast range of tech to improve, blah, 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 blah. An hour is nothing. So you are not going to be an expert at this after an hour. But because I feel bad, I have done a 50% off my normal consultancy rate, and my normal consultancy rate is £70 an hour. So it's not going to break the bank. So if you have got outstanding questions at the end, I will be able to help you. So the good news is there are loads and loads of fantastic technologies that help dyslexics, and many of them are free, and those that aren't free tend to be very reasonably priced. So that's the good news. The bad news is not in an hour. Sorry, guys. But the other good news is you have your discount code, and I have created a wealth of resources for you to find out more. So even though I don't cover it today, if you're aware that there are solutions that exist, I've probably got an ebook, a web page, or a video that will tell you more. And if I haven't, if you ask me, it will go on my list of videos or ebooks to create. So I know when I come to things like this, sometimes I come thinking, oh, I just need to know about technology, it's the right thing to do. But sometimes I come thinking, I really hope she's going to cover this. So if there's anything you're really hoping I'm going to cover while I'm here, please tell me now, because there might be a way of me getting it in. There might not, but if there's anything you hope I'm going to cover, tell me. And I'm going to tell you the objectives. What I'm hoping to do in this session is just raise your awareness of what's possible and what's available. And in doing so, I want to save you a ton of time. And if you go on to purchase, it will save you a ton of money and frustration, because I've done the research so you don't have to. And I'm going to point you to where you can find more information. And that will always be in one of two places. It will either be on my website, which is here, or my YouTube channel. So there you go, there's my resources pages, and this is my YouTube channel. And the other thing that I will do while I'm not displaying my PowerPoint is I will give you my email address. I think that's right, achievenow.org.uk. Okay, so it is, and I will go back to the slides, she says, hopefully. There we go. If I don't cover it today, there's a very good chance there'll be a video about it, or there'll be a resource on my webpage. So who is Caroline Bateman? Has anyone here been on one of my workshops before? Give me a quick yes in the chat if you have, and I'll have a quick drink. Nobody in the last one had, and it's not looking like anyone here has either. So I better introduce myself. Achieve Now could make it sound like I'm a lot more professional than I am. Achieve Now is me. We are in my spare bedroom because this is my head office, not because it's a pandemic. It's just, this is where I work. And why did I start Achieve Now? Well, I'm hideously dyslexic, but I did not know I was hideously dyslexic. I did really well at school, did really well at university, and I had a great career in the IT industry. Then I had 3 kids, and they were all really failing in education, like really not doing well at all. And we decided that I would give up work to support their learning, because they really needed help, and I was best placed to do it. And because my background is technology, it made perfect sense for me to look for technology to help my kids, because that's what I was comfortable with. And I was absolutely delighted by what I found. And the best way I can describe it is I am blind as a bat. And if I had been born and went to school at a time when glasses and contact lenses weren't commonplace, I would never have learnt to read because I could not focus on the page. And when I could not get my son, my daughters were hard, but my son was impossible to learn to read, I thought, okay, technology is the way forward. It will read for him. For the generation at school at the moment, technology is the equivalent of me with glasses. It will enable them to achieve in ways that they just couldn't have in the past. And I took all my kids out of their state schools and sent them to special schools because they were, well, when I say, dyslexia private schools. And the private schools weren't using these either. So once my kids were up and doing well, and these are my children now, and they are all doing brilliantly academically. If you'd have told me 5 years ago how well they'd be doing, I wouldn't have believed you. I certainly wouldn't have believed you 10 years ago. George, who can barely read now, well, I can read, he can't spell. He got 3 A stars in his A levels, and he's doing pure maths at university now. My daughter, Amelia, who hadn't read a chapter book until she started year 8, thought she was thick because she was on a table with everyone else that spoke English as a foreign language. And I didn't know this, but she just thought, I'm thick. I'm not very clever. I might as well have a nice time at school. I work hard. I get rubbish grades. I might as well have a nice time and get rubbish grades. So that was my eldest. And my youngest has never really done that badly because I knew what I was doing by the time she came along. But normally, if we have more time, I show their reports from before I got involved with technology and after, and there is night and day difference. I will put them in the handouts, but I didn't want to slow down. I set up Achieve Now because I just didn't have a clear conscience about going back to work and having all this technology available, most of it free and nobody using it. So I'm very passionate about doing everything I can to get the word out. I don't sell anything. I am not on commission. I don't get a cut. I just give impartial advice. The way I work with schools tends to be, I can do staff workshops. I can teach the students directly. I teach learning support staff. If I teach learning support staff, that's normally just on a consultancy basis and answer specific questions. And that tends to be the most cost effective. And that's why you've got a discount code. And I do parent workshops. And I think the most successful thing I do is parent workshops. Why? Because parents are a hugely underutilized resource who have a vested interest in their child's success, but they don't have a clue how to support them. And when I come in and teach them as someone whose kids are doing rubbish to doing great, they're really, really eager to learn from me. Whereas if a member of the teaching staff from school gave them exactly the same advice, there's sometimes a bit more of well, why aren't you doing that? You should be doing that. That's not my job. I'm not a teacher. So it tends to work very, very well. And the other thing is, if the school budgets can't always run to this technology, but most of the kids have it at home. Now, I'm not saying all of them do, and I'm very, very sad that there are children that don't have this technology at home, but I'm guessing the majority do. But it's not being utilized because people don't realize how effective it is. So here are 11 categories of assistive technology. And for each one of these categories, there might be 100 different solutions. There might only be a few. So that gives you an idea of everything I could show you, which I absolutely cannot do in an hour. And if we were to look at this, you would say, well, it's a generalization, but far bottom left tends to be the primary solutions. And top right tends to be the secondary solutions, although secondary students do need to improve their self-esteem and they need to be encouraged to read. And primary students do need to get organized, and some primary students need to learn how to do exams. So it's a generalization, but that is the spread. And that is how I've organized my YouTube channel. I've tried to have a section for each one of those. I haven't got one for everyone because YouTube wouldn't let me have that many sections. But if you only get one thing out of today, know this: there is a humongous amount of technology, most of it free, a lot of it very reasonably priced, some of it very expensive, but not much. And all I'm going to do in this 1 hour is I'm going to give you a taster. And I really hope from this taster session that you will want to go on and learn more. So how on earth do I decide what to include in 1 hour? Because you guys are Senkos. You guys are the people I want to speak to more than anybody else. And I felt quite stressed. I know my stuff very well, but I thought, what am I going to include? And I decided I was only going to show you stuff that was free and that had maximum impact on the lives of young people. So all I'm going to show you is one technology to read to learn, not learn to read, but read to learn, and another one to help students produce written work. And I'm going to just step back and say, okay, what's the purpose of education? And it's to prepare students for life. I wish I'd come up with it. It's a quote from somebody else. But in your opinion, and I'd be interested to know in the chat, could schools prepare dyslexic learners better for life? And I know that, you might not have an answer off the top of your head. I've had a chance to think about this, but it's good to think about these things. How could we support our dyslexic learners better? And when I say dyslexic, I also mean dysgraphia, dyspraxia, ADHD, because even though my background is dyslexia, I found that the solutions that I show help a lot of different students. And in my experience, I think an awful lot of kids with special needs are very bright, but they underachieve at school. And because of that, they believe that they're stupid. My daughter absolutely believed she was stupid for a long time. And this article in The Independent in August 2019 goes into more detail. Rubbish slide. I tried to get all the text on, but if you click here, you can get it in, you can read the article itself, but I've just given you the edited highlights. It says, dyslexics are discriminated against by the current GCSE exam system. It's time to go digital. And then it points out, this PhD student pointed out that to get English and maths GCSE is really critical, because without it, there's so much you can't do afterward. And they said that of learners without special needs, 70.6% of students got grades between 4 and 9. And when it came to learners with dyslexia and similar special educational needs, only 35% of students got the grade 4 or above. Now, my son, who got his 3 A stars at A level, scraped a grade 4. And we could not have been happier. I can't tell you how much time and money I put into him scraping that grade 4, but he never had to do it again. And then he could concentrate on learning and excelling in what he was good at. And I'm going to show you the technology that you need to put in place to help students do that. School does not teach the way they learn. So we expect in schools students to read in order to learn. We give them worksheets to read. We give them textbooks to read. We expect them to do research on the web. Maybe we give them photocopies of textbooks. When it comes to being assessed, we very rarely sit and ask a child to explain verbally anything and then grade them. We need them to write in order to be assessed. And what tends to happen, and this definitely happened with my own children, is my children would spend a disproportionate amount of time producing homework that then got rubbish grades, because it was disorganized, they spelt it badly, it just looked really shoddy. The teacher had no idea how much effort they'd actually put in. And then they think, well, I did all that work and I got a rubbish grade, I must be stupid. And when it comes to classroom teaching, the old traditional chalk and talk, copy this information down from the board, could not be worse for dyslexics. In fact, having to write notes while you're learning new information is a cognitively difficult task for anybody, but it's super hard for dyslexics, and they end up not really engaging with the lesson, but they're more thinking, what did he say? How do you spell that? And they just get lost. And it's not because they're not bright, it's because they're busy trying to do something that they're not very good at. Whereas the actual physics that's being taught or the history, they could be fab at, but they're not good at taking notes. So schools are not set up And I have particularly said, because these are the things I'm going to concentrate on, the reading and the writing, what technology can help them with these things. If we had more time, I would talk about remembering, learning, but we haven't. So when it comes to exams, every exam is a test of speed. It's always for a finite period. So it requires speed reading. If you're anxious, you could go off on a tangent and answer the wrong question. It requires organization and recall, but it also requires writing really quickly. The more you can write in the time, the more chance you get of getting grades. Again, reading and writing. This is a quote from the JCQ, and it's pretty up to date. It was September 2020. I find the JCQ super, super helpful, far more helpful than I ever thought they would be. Sorry, I'm going to read this quote because I just think it's brilliant. Senkos may wish to consider the use of technology to a much greater extent instead of readers and scribe. Computer readers, examination reading pens, speech recognition technology, and word processors not only allow candidates to work independently, but are also better preparation for further and higher education and the world of employment. And if you want to read that in more detail, there is a link there. So JCQ recommends to help dyslexics do better in exams, we use technology. And you and I know that we can't use technology in exams if we don't use it in the classroom because it's not their normal way of working. And it will be a disadvantage in exams if they're not accustomed to it. So I'd be really interested to know, and I know a lot of you are primary, so it isn't as applicable to you, but which of these technologies, computer reader, exam pen, speech recognition, word processors, are you using in school at the moment? If, just put in 1, 2, 3, or all, whatever you're using, I'd love to know. 4, yeah, 4. Oh, great. Oh, I think you're going to like what I'm going to show you. You might already be using what I'm showing you. So, yeah, brilliant. Good to know. Thank you, guys. So literacy is often mistaken for intelligence. I'm as guilty as anybody else. When my kids came home with their CVC word books and I compared them to their friends who were on chapter books, I thought, oh, they're not very bright. We all do it. But literacy and intelligence are two totally different things. There are so many entrepreneurs, brilliant inventors, scientists who are dyslexic, brilliant writers even, and authors. We know that, but yet at school, we do mix up literacy and intelligence. But technology allows students to overcome any problems with literacy, so it empowers them to reach their full potential. But here's a huge caveat. Technology in itself is not the answer. I've seen schools go through a big process of which tech to buy, and they finally buy it, but then they don't use it well. And then they think, oh, technology is rubbish. Technology doesn't help. No, unless you use it well, it is rubbish. But if you have technology and you use it well, it can be transformational. So say, for example, I know schools that have bought Nessie. Nessie is fab, but they don't train the staff and the parents how to use it. And therefore, dyslexic kids are super bright and they don't like learning to read. So they find all the ways that they can earn as many nuggets as possible without actually doing any work because they're smart. But I know how to stop them. And I can help your TAs and parents do the same. And not training parents is you're underutilizing them. They want to help. Not everyone, I admit, but they do. So my goal is to find technology to empower learners to achieve. And what I've noticed, and this isn't empirical evidence, I haven't got a PhD, but this is what I've noticed. If you've got your neurotypical kid and your dyslexic kid, they start school, they're all the same. They do wet play and messy play, and the dyslexics are articulate and they're normally grand. But the more school requires them to read in order to learn and to write notes in class and write to be assessed, this gap, this attainment gap just gets bigger and bigger. And what I do is I think whatever it is they're finding hard, whatever it is they're finding difficult, let me find a solution that will help them. And what this does is it then stops the dyslexia, their lack of literacy being a problem, and they can just concentrate on learning the subject and hopefully working out which subjects they can excel at and going on and doing brilliantly. So an opinion question again. What do you think is the biggest barrier to a student using technology? Have a think. What do you think stops students using technology? I'll have a look. Staff knowledge. That's a good one, Nicola. I think that's very true. Confidence. Yeah. To be honest, kids tend to be really, really confident with tech. It's us that have the problem. And therefore, we stop them using it because we don't introduce them to it. Cost does come up, cost absolutely, but everything I'm going to show you is free. Now, it's only free if you've already got a computer. It's only free if you've already got an internet connection. And my heart goes out and I want to do anything practically I can to help those that don't fall into that category. But the vast majority of children in this area, I would say, do have these things at home. And even if you don't have them in the classroom, they could be using them to help them with their homework and do a lot better with homework and feel a lot better about themselves. So I'm looking through these confidence, programs and knowledge, being different from their peers. Gabby, I'm glad you said that. We are definitely going to talk about that. More of a problem in secondary school than primary school, unfortunately. Yeah, feeling they should. I think there's a lot of expectation management, helping kids. But I try to get it so the kids that aren't using it, okay, oh, miss, it's not fair. I wish I could use that as well. And when everybody envies you, then maybe you can cope with it a little bit better. And it does take effort to teach kids to use tech. So I'm just going to give you what I consider to be the answer, although there isn't a correct answer. The biggest thing that I find stops them is a lack of self-esteem. And if they believe I'm never going to achieve anything, what is the point in learning to use new skills? I've given up. I just want to get school over and done with. That's what I find to be one of the biggest barriers. I also think just knowledge. An awful lot of technology exists, but nobody knows about it, which is why I do what I do. And I have done after-school clubs in primary school and secondary school to help kids in state schools get the extra help that they needed in a once-a-week after-school club. And in the secondary school, I always recommended they started in year 9. And I thought, well, in year 9, I'll teach them to type, I'll teach them how to revise, how to be organized. Because once you start in year 10, you haven't got time. You've got to learn biology and history and physics. You haven't got time to learn new skills. And for some of the students, it was super successful. They were, say, 13. But some of the students, I found that the peer pressure meant that it did not matter how much it was going to help them. They wouldn't do it. No, I won't. Whereas in my primary school class, the children were really excited about all the new technology. They weren't as paralyzed by the fear of what their peers would think of them. So I feel like if we introduce this new technology in primary school, then kids just get used to it. They get used to being different, and then they can carry on using it in secondary school. But for some students, introducing it in secondary school is just too late, unfortunately. And I have I think confidence is super important. A child can leave school without any formal qualifications, but if they're confident, they can go on and have a productive life. But if you leave school without any confidence and you think, well, I'm rubbish, I'm thick, then it's really hard. So I spent a lot of time dealing with this with my students. And you might as well benefit from all the time I've spent, because I did a lot of research on different videos, because I found me saying to a kid, you're bright, you're clever, you're just not very good at spelling. Who cares? I'm rubbish at spelling is helpful, more helpful than their own parents saying it. So me saying it is helpful, but watching a program on the TV that says it seems to be even more helpful. So I've watched lots of videos, and by them, I've kind of said, this is good for this is good for that, this is good for this age group. So it'll speed you up so you don't have to watch them all. And I think since I've created this, loads more have been created, so I probably need to update it. So that's just a quick resource to help you. Why do you think schools are not using this technology? We'd love to know why you think schools aren't using technology, because I'm going to show you that most of it is free. Not all. When it comes to exams, schools need to have the technology. When it comes to homework, most homes already have it. So most families already have it. And so if you find that there is a particular technology that will help your students, but you don't have the tech in school, then look on my YouTube channel. Chances are you'll see a video that helps explain how to use it. Share it with the parents, get the parents to watch it, or get the students to watch it, and then they can start using that technology. Or organize a parents' evening where you get me to explain to the parents, this is how you can support learning at home using technology. So it's quite helpful to have a parent helping parents, and they tend to be very, very successful over subscribed evenings. So now I'm actually going to get in, and technology is great for reading in order to learn. Now here is the amount of reading required to do 6 GCSEs. Each one of those science books is about 400 pages long. Each one has really complex vocabulary, describes complex processes. Students need to read them to revise. English literature, huge amount of reading. Geography, a little bit of reading. History, a lot of reading. These are all subjects that dyslexics can do really well in, but they might have to read that same page 3, 4, 5 times in order to get the meaning. And so it just slows them down. They can't get through revision in the same way. So are any of you familiar with text-to-speech technology? If yes, just give me a Y in the chat box. No? Okay, you're going to like this then. So this is a chemistry revision booklet. Why on earth am I showing you a chemistry revision booklet? Well, back when my son was in year 6, can you see a red folder? Give me a thumbs up if you can see a red folder. Yeah, thank you. He came home excited because he had a chemistry test the next week, and this was his revision folder. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's his revision folder, and he wanted to revise. Now, the only way my son was going to revise was if I read it to him. What do I know about chemistry? Nothing. Got 2 other kids, got dinner to cook, but he wanted to revise, and the only way he could do it was if I read it to him. And so as I'm reading, feeling like, oh, I can't believe I'm still doing this, I thought, this is a Word document. So I emailed the teacher and I said, could you send me an email with the attachment of the chemistry revision booklet? Which she did. And once she did, I was able to open it and do this. So I'm just using Word in 365, Office 365. I think it costs me $7.99 a month for 5 users in my family. It's cheaper if you only want 1. And schools, I think schools can get it for free. Or I don't know. I better be careful. So here, this is the periodic table. What my son is able to do is switch.
As you know, there is a copy of the periodic table in your prep diary. All of the known.
So once I press that button, read aloud, this came up. It's a new toolbar. In the toolbar, I can make it faster or slower. I can change the name, and off we go.
Table. Each element contains only one type of atom. For example, hydrogen contains only.
So it's highlighting every word and it's reading it aloud. Now, truthfully, my son much preferred when I read to him. He didn't like that electronic voice. No, Mum, you read to me. And I explained to him that I wasn't going to go to university with him and he had to be an independent learner. So much as he didn't like it, it was one of the best things that ever happened in our house, because it also meant I could teach my other children, because I was like spinning plates. I was reading from one, reading for the next. They could get on and they could do it on their own. This, as long as you've got Word, this is completely free because it's already there. People just don't know it's there. If I go into view, there's some more dyslexia-friendly functionality. You have something called Immersive Reader. And in Immersive Reader, I can change the column width, the page color. Let's have it yellow. Now, some students will find it easier reading if they just have one line at a time. So they're just going through one line at a time. Some might think that's excessive. They'll have 3 lines, or they don't want it at all. They might find it better if they change the text spacing, or they might find syllable division makes it easier. And we've already seen that you can have this read aloud. So all this Immersive Reader is doing, it is changing the child's view. It's not changing the document. So if a number, which version of Word? Office 365 for Word. Now, the Immersive Read, but I'm going to show you in my next demo how you can do a lot of this on Word Online. And Word Online is always the latest edition, and it is completely free, and it has some better functionality in some ways. But what I'm showing you here is a view. So if you had a group of 3 or 4 children all working together on a document, it's only the child that switches this yellow on and the spacing in Immersive Reader that will get the document looking this way. The others will carry on getting it the way it was before, or they might want it a different way. So it's a very personalized thing to help reading. And obviously, if we had more time, I could show you how to put on dyslexia friendly fonts, but that's all I was going to show you for my first demo. Are there similar functions in Google Docs? Yes, and I have a video on my YouTube channel, but I'm very glad you asked that. So that's the demo done. And here I showed you it in Microsoft, but it works on Mac, on Chromebook, on iPads, on Android tablets. It works on the internet. But the next thing I'm going to show you is you can get electronic textbooks where the textbook can be read aloud to the child, which, given that children aren't great at taking notes in class, so they don't have fantastic class notes to use for their homework or for revision, if they can have a book read to them, that is absolutely fantastic. So, as I said, on my webpage, I have different sections. I have the section Reading to Learn. Within Reading to Learn, I think there's 12 or 13 videos there now on text to speech. So what I've just shown you is text to speech, also known as read aloud functionality. And then the reason why I've got 12 videos is I say on this device, this is how you switch it on this device, this is how you switch it on and how you use it. So dependent on what you use, you can pick the right video. It would just take you, I think, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. They don't take long. And once you've watched it, you can switch on that functionality and start using it straight away. It really would be worthwhile subscribing to my YouTube channel. I try to produce a new video every week. So if you subscribe and then hit the bell button, you'll just get a little notification when I've created a new video, and you can look at the contents in the notification and think, oh, I'm not interested, or yeah, I'll watch. And so it's not like you're bombarded with information, but you'll just get a quick update when I do create a new videos. So everything I showed you then was if it's electronic, but what if it's hard copy? Well, if it's hard copy, there are apps that you can put on your phone, and Office Lens is completely free, and Claro is cheap. In fact, I think it's free on Android, and there's a charge on iPad. That allows you to take a photograph and it will read the document to you. So if a child has headphones in class and either uses a tablet or phone, they can listen to anything. But on Office Lens, I've got a video that shows how it will create it into a Word document. And not only can it be listened to, but the student can go in and type a response, or they can dictate a response. So really great for hard copy sheets. There's also the C Pen and the Exam Pen. It's not an exam reader, and it's an exam pen, I think. And a lot of schools are using those now, and they're absolutely fab for the hard copy. So they're the different options. Now, these aren't free. But there are instances when they are really, really helpful. And I am about to create a video. I don't know when I'll get it out there, which is the C Pen, is it worth the money? Because it's a question I get asked over and over again, and it's not a quick answer. So I'm going to create a video to explain that. So now this, I think, is a gift. If this is the only thing you learn about, I think this is really helpful. Are any of you currently using RNIB Bookshare? Give me a yes in the comments if you are. Right, well, Google RNIB Bookshare. It was for a while called Load to Learn, and it was a collaboration between Dyslexia Action and RNIB. And Dyslexia Action went out of business, so now it's just RNIB Bookshare. So it would be forgivable to think it was only for those with visual disabilities, but it's not. It's for any student with a print disability, of which dyslexia is one. And so schools apply for membership, it's free. And then if students have a learning difficulty, they are able to give them membership and give them electronic textbooks free of charge. And I give you information here about it, but the easiest thing, in all honesty, is just to show you it. So I'm going to close that down. I'm going to go into RNIB Bookshare. And here we see, in fact, I change this.
Act 2, more revelations. Gerald admits that he met Daisy Renton in the spring of the previous year and that...
Right, I've got to be honest, didn't mean to do that, but you've now seen how it works. So it highlighted every sentence, and then it highlighted every word as it spoke it. And so that is fantastic immersive reading. The chance of a child watching that instead of like looking at the ceiling or looking at their hands is greatly improved because of that highlighting. Now, what I meant to do first was show you this book. This is the book. Now, all three of my children did this at GCSE. It's An Inspector Calls, and this is the book, An Inspector Calls. So if I was to go up to the cover, there it is. And it has exactly word for word everything that is in this book. And in the same way,
Publisher.
oh, actually, didn't mean to do that. In the same way that in the Word document, I could say, this is the way I want to read it. I can do the same here. So let me go into settings. Excuse me. So you see that I've changed the setting to be Open Dyslexic, but that isn't how it arrived. It arrived with just a default. It arrived with smaller font, and it actually had white background and black text. And I think it had normal margins. So let's have a look at that. So that is how it arrived. It has everything in this book has, and it actually has videos in there, which are so much nicer to watch than read the book. But, you know, it's a teacher explaining the characters and the synopsis of the book, which is brilliant. And the other thing, so let me go back to where I was. We can go and let's have a look at the plot summary. There we go. So we have the plot summary. Once we're here, we can have it read to us. We can change the colors. We can have it the way we want. So that's RNIB Bookshare. Again, I'm just scraping. There's so much more I could show you, but it's completely free. And what tends to happen is I tell Senkos about this, they apply, but they just don't have the time to figure out how to make the most of it because everything takes time and you're all stretched so thin. And that's where I want to be able to help because I'm really familiar with using it. I've been using it a long time. So I can be the colleague that sits beside you and shows you how to set it up quickly. So that's RNIB Bookshare, and that is the demo over. Let's go back to my slides and see how my time is going. Right. We've done that demo. Any particular questions? Yes. Wow. Wish my daughter had access to this for her GCSEs. You're not kidding. I mean, I'd have been brilliant if I'd have had this at school. But yeah, and I'm so grateful that I got this in place for my children. But the dyslexia friendly private schools that they were at, they weren't using this. And I was just so shocked There is so much good stuff and people just don't know about it. So now we're going to look at technology to help students produce written work. So we've finished everything I'm going to look at with reading, and we're going to have a look at writing. Now, I'm interested to know what technology is your school using to help students write, if it uses anything. It's more likely in secondary schools, write on. Do you know, I don't know write online. Let me make a note of that. It might be very similar to stuff I'm going to show you, but like a different brand. Anyone else got anything? These are the different options that you have. You have dictation, also known as voice to text. Yeah, clicker, great. You have predictive text, which clicker does very well. And then you have typing. And there are 3 reasons why I love typing. One, it helps students improve the quality of their homework. Yeah, iPad dictate, fantastic. It's really good quality. I love it. So I'll go back. Typing improves the quality of written work, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how you can use it to raise grades and exams. But also, if you are encouraging students to dictate, no dictation software is perfect. And then to correct mistakes with dictation, you really need to be able to type. Otherwise, it really slows you down. So I don't see dictation happening instead of typing. I see dictation and typing going very well together. But in secondary schools, if you introduce dictation too early, it takes away students' desire to learn to type, because learning to type is time consuming. Students don't really want to do it, but it's a really hard access arrangement to be able to use dictation. You know, you've got to have a separate room, whereas being able to type in exams isn't hard. So I always encourage my students to learn to type. And then when they've learned to type, then I teach them to dictate. That's not true in primary school, because for some younger students who just can't write, they're too young to learn to type, but they could learn to dictate. And then I often use a handwriting-like font and a very, very, very light grey colour, and they can speak their words, have them printed out, and then they could write over it if they wanted to. So I'm not against dictation, but I just think you've got to be careful. You don't want to get teenagers dependent on dictating and not learning to touch type, because they'll become dependent on something they can't use in formal exams, or there's a danger. So I have, back in 2013, a very lazy son who does not want to learn to type. And this is a piece of descriptive writing he did. He took a lot of time over it. He's got neat handwriting, but it's very slow handwriting. It takes him a long time, really poor pencil grip. He went to Kingswood House, which is a lovely, very dyslexia-friendly school. So there isn't corrections of all his spelling mistakes, but he's made quite a few mistakes there. But he, like me, cannot see his mistakes. And I wanted to persuade him to learn to type. So what I did was let me go in here into Word. And this is what I created. I'll close that. So every last single character he wrote, I typed, because I wanted to show him the extra help he would get if he learnt to type. So straight away, we see that he's got a spelling mistake. So if we right-hand mouse click, nothing you don't already know. But for my son, if there were a few options, if spell check said, it's wrong, but you could do this, 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 or this, he wouldn't know which one to use. So you can.
Everyone, similar to everybody, each, all.
You can have them read aloud, which is really, really helpful. I have my phone on aeroplane and it's still going off at the moment. No, it's on silent as well, but, oh, it's my watch, that's why. Let me just get rid of that. Okay. So you've got spell check, read aloud. The other thing that you've got is you've got help with grammar, which you don't get when you are writing. But the other thing is my son never, ever read. So he had very, very limited vocabulary. So say he was talking about someone losing their temper. he wouldn't have a wide vocabulary, and he'd be using the word angry, 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 angry over and over again. But if you write out mouse clicks and then says synonyms, he can get indignant, mad, annoyed, livid, irate. And if that's not enough, you can open thesaurus and get a pile more. So he's got help with spelling, with grammar, with vocabulary. It also does some other things. It helps you be more concise. The latest word really does help you quite a lot. Also, you can use things like Grammarly, which improves. But the thing that I love more than anything else is this.
Luke. The person walking through the door is called Luke. Age 11 and must be the tallest boy in the class.
Fast. Let me just slow that down a little bit.
He's got a mop of red curly hair and freckles. Everyone like Luke because he always got a joke to tell that make us laugh.
See, my son could not see his mistakes, but he could hear them. When I write an email, when I write a report, I cannot see my mistakes, but I always listen back. And if a child listens back, then they bother to correct, because my son would listen back because I forced him to, and then he wouldn't bother correcting it because he just wanted to finish it as quickly as possible. But if they correct it, they are going to get better results. They're going to hand in a piece of work that better reflects to the teacher what they are capable of, rather than the stuff that he was handing in. The other thing that you can do when you type is you can reorganize work very, very easily. Point 3 here, but on reflection would be better in 1. All I've got to do is Control X and move it up to 1. If I found out, if I went up here and I thought, oh, God, I've just read the homework again. Mr. Fraser was supposed to come before Luke. Let me put that in there. It is so much easier to correct your work. You can brain dump first and then organize it all. Or you can cut and paste information off the internet, and then you don't plagiarize, because that's what I teach my children. You make it your own, but you're not starting from a blank piece of paper. I want to put that back. So I have, but you get an idea for the help that you get if you type work over writing work. And the other thing that I wanted to show you, because somebody asked about the version of Word, if I now come out of Word and go into Google, and I am going to show you now the same information, but now I'm not on Microsoft Word on my machine, I'm on Google Chrome, and I'm in Word Online within here. So you've got spell, grammar, everything we looked at before, but now we're going to do Immersive Reader. And in here, you have these controls. So we're changing the background color. We're changing the font. We're changing the size of font. We're going to change the line spacing. Then we're going to come here, and this is what my students love. We say every purple is a noun. You can change these. Red is a verb. Green is an adverb. Well, we want our children to have really rich sentences so they can see from color. Oh, I've not got any purple in there. Or, we can get them to use the colors to make their speech better. And obviously they can get help with vocabulary. They can translate. We can actually show the labels. Look, it's a noun. It's a verb. It's an adjective. Maybe a little bit too far seeing the labels, but you can if you want. And then here you have picture dictionary and you have translation. So let me go into, I'm going to say Catalan because it's there. Door. There's a door. And
Porta.
Porta is how you say it in Catalan. So that is everything I was going to show you there. This is how I motivate I'm a really good touch typing teacher. And the reason why is I don't just teach touch typing. I teach kids how to use technology to get better grades. Then they have the intrinsic motivation to bother to learn to touch type because they can see that it's worthwhile. So I'm just going to show you, because I'm really short on time now. Typical 16-year-old, their handwriting speed is about 19. My students that come to me tend to have between 12 and 25 words per minute. So I've kind of picked one in the middle. An okay typist that hasn't done my course, or somebody is just never going to be really great as a typist, will normally type about 25 to 35 words per minute. So I've said 29. Now, I've talked about already, every exam is a test of speed. There's speed writing. In a 2.5-hour exam, well, it's a 3-hour with 45 minutes extra time, you're probably going to be writing for 2.5 hours. In that time, if you write at 19 words per minute, it's 190 sentences. If you can just type 29 words per minute, you will write 290 sentences, which is an extra 100 sentences. And I regularly have typists do 50 words per minute. These are the 16-year-olds. I wouldn't expect that of an 11-year-old. That's 500 sentences. That's an additional 310 sentences. That's a game changer. And this is the reason why every ed psych says children should learn to touch type. And there are hundreds of free typing solutions, and I'd happily advise you on which are good and which not so good. And yet so few students can type. And these are the assumptions that I base those calculations on. What is the best age to teach a child to touch type? But I will just tell you that this is the sweet spot. It gets easier to type as they get older. So a 16 and a 17-year-old would find typing much easier than a 10-year-old, but it's too late because they've got to concentrate on biology and history and all those other things. They don't have time to learn to touch type. But I find that peer pressure really, really messes students up, and they do not cooperate, and the pressure of work has gone up. So I actually think teaching students to learn to touch type in primary school is the best gift you can give them for life, because they go into secondary school with typing as their normal way of working. Someone's asked me the question, why not earlier than 10? I do help students earlier than 10. It gets easier for them as they get older. But yeah, I did it over February half term. I had a 9-year-old really do well. I found girls from year 3 tend to do well. Boys, you're better off leaving it up till they're a little bit older. I think it's just too rigid for them. I could have talked for 3 hours on why typing is brilliant. So I've created a playlist that you can go, what teachers and parents need to know about teaching children to type. I've got a web page that says how it helps you improve grades. And so all this information is there for you to find out more. So if we went back to where we started, for English GCSE, only 35% of students with dyslexia are getting 4 or above. I have a friend who she sent her son to a specialist dyslexia school, but they didn't teach him to touch type or use computer readers, and unfortunately he has failed English GCSE 7 times. That has a huge impact on both self-esteem and future life chances. We need to set up our dyslexic students for success in life. JCQ are saying help these children use computer readers in exams and be laptop users, and then they have all these benefits. And this isn't just for English. And if you have a scribe in English, they cannot read the comprehension section, but they can have a computer reader read it to them. So it is absolutely the tech that makes it fairer. They're not disadvantaged, and yet very few schools use it. I hope it's clear that by using this technology, we not only improve exam results, we improve self-esteem and future life opportunities. So I've put in some information on access arrangements, so you can see what a computer reader looks like. There is expense for the school in doing this, but I believe that the investment is fantastic. Why do you think so few schools use technology? There is expense, but there's also because we just don't realize how important it is. I put in all these to how to help use technology to enjoy learning, but I'm not going to show them. Because I knew there were lots of primary age students here, these are all the things that I would have shown you if this was just a primary session, but all the information is there. So this is an ebook, fantastic resources to help children learn to read, not designed for teachers, designed for parents, but get your parents to download it. A web page, how to build confidence in dyslexic learners. A free resource is a free trial of something that really helps improve comprehension. This tells you all about online screens, tech to help learn to read. This says why I went for technology, not paper-based solutions. This compares 7 different intervention solutions. So it's got Nessie in there, it's got engaging eyes, it's got lots of different intervention solutions that you could use. Lexia Core 5, how to help children prepare for spelling tests. I actually think writing is the best thing by far, but they don't want to, so it's better than nothing. How to develop a love of reading, how to encourage reading, and this for older students, online learning resources. And the thing that I glossed over really quickly was in The Guardian on Saturday, it said how the students that have benefited from online learning are those that need to watch things a second or third time, but my goodness, when they get it, they really get it. And that's why I've been promoting online learning for a long time. And also this one tells you all about immersive reading, which can really help encourage reluctant readers. And it's not very expensive, but it's not free. So that's everything that if you are in primary school, go on my website, go on my YouTube channel, do subscribe, and you will get lots of updates when I create new stuff. And if you want my help going forward, I've already told you I do lots of free resources. I have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. I run remote touch typing courses. I'm running another one over Easter. The cutoff for that is tomorrow night. If you have children that can't afford to pay for a course, I tend to have one bursary place on every one where I just have someone come in. So I would love to know if you know people. I have my bursary place for Easter, but I have bursary places left in July. I don't advertise that, but if you know kids that would benefit, I would love to help them. I have got this discount, and I definitely do packages for schools. So if you have any questions, I am all yours. It is 1 minute over, so you probably need to go to coffee break, but I'm going to stay here to see your questions if you have anything you need to ask. I'm sorry I didn't leave more time for questions.